Darkstar, the LIV Golf Tour, Greg Norman, leader thereof, has canceled the OWGR. They have released the news that they are canceling the OWGR. They have done this in the form of a memo or a letter to their own tour members. So all 54 players on LIV have been alerted from corporate by Greg that the OWGR is no longer going to be in their strategy moving forward. It's no longer serving their purposes. There's no way to work with them at this point, so we're moving on. Okay, that is the news of the day. Today is Wednesday. This all came out yesterday on the 5th of March. And we have the Palmer starting tomorrow, and we have Hong Kong starting Friday for the LIV guys. So there's two possibilities here, audience. Two possibilities. And we're coming to you quickly here on YouTube because we just didn't have time to put the video together. Darkstar was in the shower. He couldn't get his hair done quickly enough. Forgive us, the YouTube viewers, for having just still photos. But here we go. So we wanted to get this reaction. Obviously, it's big news. Big news to us, at least. There's two possibilities, Darkstar. One, this news is coincidental or incidental to the overall flow of what's going on between LIV and PGA Tour and the paused or dying or however you want to characterize negotiations between PGA Tour and PIF on the framework. So this news is either, no big thing. They just dropped it on a Tuesday, March 5th because they did. And it's no more interesting than that. That's possibility A. Possibility B is it's strategic. We dropped it, if you're LIV, we drop it on Tuesday, March 5th for a reason. There's a reason to do it that way, the way in which we've done it, rather than totally private. We knew it was going to leak. We wanted it to leak. We put it out as a letter to a whole bunch of people, so it got picked up by the press just as we intended. And we're doing it on this date, at this time, for these reasons, because of these following points. So it's either strategic, option B, or non-strategic, option A. Where do you fall in your analysis, Darkstar?
Well, I think it's non-strategic.
You think it's A?
I think it's A for the entire golf ecosystem. They could care less anymore. Greg Norman everybody realizes Greg Norman is correct when he says, one, the OWGR has no interest in getting us points. Phil Mickelson pointed that out months ago. They were never going to get points. Okay, so what does this do? This gives their players who were coming into the major season, what this really does is it gives the LIV golfer, that something less to worry about. There are going to be some LIV golfers in these majors. The majors are what really matter. And so the timing is simply going into the major season. We're going to take this off our plate because these guys have no interest in us getting points, because if we get points, we are the premier tour. And they have, as we've discussed in every single episode we've done, the aristocracy has no interest in giving up its power. So, yeah, it's the timing is the timing in the sense that, we're going to drop it at the Arnold Palmer. It's a signature event. There's only going to be the top players in the world. And the only strategic thing that I see, and I'm sure you're going to go into this in greater detail, but the only strategic thing that I see is that the players on the PGA Tour are starting to come around to, these LIV guys are really happy. I really like their schedule preparing for the majors. And it's a little ridiculous that Dustin Johnson is 266th in the world and Joaquin Niemann is 76th in the world. The whole point of the OWGR is it's supposed to rank golfers in an equitable manner, and it's not doing that. It's not even close. So Greg Norman's given up the ghost because it's a ludicrous system. The OWGR, by their lack of ranking the top players in the world, has made themselves irrelevant. They're no longer the official world golf rankings.
Oh, that's for sure. No question of that. The question is it A or B? And you're going with A. All right. I respect that. I think it's B, and we can have that debate right here. I don't think they're going to do anything there without a strategic reason at LIV. No need to do that. So what could it be? If it is for a strategic reason, what are those options? and the timing is important. I think it's preemptive. That means we need to do it now. We need to get it officially off of our to-do list here and tell the whole world that that's what we're doing. We're no longer interested in you. We're canceling you, OWGR. Not interested in you anymore. Well, got to get that out because in the next 1, 2, 3 days or 1, 2, 3 weeks or 1, 2, 3 months, we have something else that's going to come out. And this has to be before that, whatever that is. And I don't think it's 1, 2, 3 days. And I don't think it's 1, 2, 3 months. I think it's 1, 2, 3 weeks. Maybe it's important before the Masters begins to say whatever they're going to say next. And what could that be? Well, as far as I can tell, there's only one thing that LIV really wants right this minute, and that's for its players to have a pathway and to play in the majors. Okay. Because everything else takes care of itself. We can keep recruiting, we can keep doing what we're doing without anything else happening except for that. We want our guys
Sure, everybody
to
agrees
play.
with that.
So what could they then? They're not working on anything else besides the bump and grind, the usual back and forth of the tournaments. So that's all they're doing at LIV headquarters, is trying to figure out how to get into the majors for their guys. Well, the OWGR is on a pathway. What's left? Well, cornering the market, so to speak, on players. And they can't do that tomorrow by having, Spieth and anybody else you care about, Scheffler, Schauffele. You just go down the list. Homa, whoever they think they need in order to make it ridiculous, Rory McIlroy, of course. They can't do that tomorrow. So what's plan B, as Bryson DeChambeau alluded to in December? Now that the deal's dead and we're not getting points, what do? Something. There is a plan B. What is it? And who has been advertising that they have switched sides? Who has advertised that they've switched sides, Darkstar, in the last month, really 2 months?
Well, the who is Rory has switched sides to some degree.
He has.
The DP Tour is switching sides.
They have. It seems to me that Mr. McIlroy's switcheroo, his 540, we started talking about in December, is relevant to what's going on. So I think it's okay to say now to all of our audience that the framework is on a deep freeze. The framework agreement is on a deep freeze. And now the OWGR is dead too. So everything that was being worked on 6 months ago is now gone. So LIV is proceeding. Okay. Well, their goal hasn't changed, and that is to be a part of a healthy global pro golf system, not to have their own tour dominating pro golf with nobody else. That's not the goal. The goal is to exist inside of a broader landscape where all these businesses and business deals and all this stuff, and it's great for tourism and it's great for Saudi because they want to be part of this Western sport that's a big deal to business elites. That's their goal. They already have soccer well under control, and they're moving in that direction fast on soccer, and they want golf for different reasons because of the business elites that golf gives you. Okay, well, they can't destroy all the environment in the process of trying to do that. Then there's nothing left can't be king of the ashes. So what can they do? Well, we've put forth, and I think this is part of that they can get into the DP World Tour, the European Tour, and have McIlroy play there more, and have their guys get a pathway to that. So if the LIV guys are playing broadly and generously and regularly in the DP World Tour events, however many that would be, particularly the ones in the Middle East, and McIlroy is also playing in those events, now we have something. We have something moving along that looks like a global league. So now we exist. DP World Tour is now enhanced because our top players are playing there as they qualify, let's say, somehow to play there. And now you have 15, 20 LIV guys playing in a DP World event, and Rory, and maybe another couple of guys like Fitzpatrick, whose name has surfaced mysteriously with this LIV canceling OWGR points. Matt Fitzpatrick. has now. We'll get into that in a second. I'll let you cover that, Dark Star. So I think this is a preemptive move towards what they're going to be doing with the European Tour. And I will tease my next point as I turn it over to you by saying that the DP World sponsor of the Euro Tour is right down the road from Saudi Arabia. And there's a relationship there. There has to be. So if the Saudis wish to bring pressure upon the Euro Tour through the sponsorship or through the next sponsor who won't be DP World, they can do that. They can also become the title sponsor instead of DP World or any number of combinations. But DP World being a Emirati company at the UAE, right down the roadway from Saudi Arabia, where they have a very, very good, long-standing relationship, very healthy relationship. A lot of Saudis in the UAE all the time.
Well,
that is not to be overlooked. I turn it back to you. That's a tease for my next point.
Right. Well, this is where I will say that, in a sense, they're not doing anything because they're letting the chips fall, because the PGA Tour cannot stand on its own in its present format very much longer. The SSG Group guys don't mind losing $100 million. They do mind losing $1 billion apiece. And this tour is in tatters. So Greg Norman withdraws his application for points from the OWGR. And all of a sudden, what do you see? What happens? Well, we want to talk about Matt Fitzpatrick. All of a sudden, when they question Matt Fitzpatrick about the OWGR, he is more of a European. And it's like, well, this is ridiculous. The OWGR was screwing over the DP Tour to begin with. Now you're not giving LIV points. You're not a relevant factor. So a Matt Fitzpatrick, who a few months ago said Pelly's an idiot because he just gave the top 10 DP Tour players to the PGA Tour, now he's fully in the camp of the DP Tour, which is now looking more and more like it's going to be relatable to LIV Golf, in the sense that, yes, they should form a merger. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, because their enemy is the PGA Tour and this farcity that is their signature events, their coalition with the OWGR leading to the majors. So a Matt Fitzpatrick is saying, and even a Will Zalatoris is saying, yes, it's a ridiculous system. It no longer ranks the top players. So I think they throw this out there before the majors start, because they're getting a lot of PGA Tour players to do their bidding for them. They don't have to tell the world that the OWGR is a terrible system and the pathway to the majors is incomplete without LIV golfers. The PGA Tour players are saying it for them.
True. Now, let me put some attention on who's getting quotes here in the press, commenting on the LIV guys canceling the OWGR. This is dated today, March 6th, so same day stuff. There's 3 names here, Dark Star. 3 names that are being quoted by Golf Digest. Xander Schauffele, Matt Fitzpatrick, and a really interesting, not that Matt's not interesting enough, Will Zalatoris. 3 guys kind of went out of their way to get a quote that's going to be picked up and printed in, maybe the largest golf publication in print anyway, Golf Digest. Those are 3 interesting names. All three of whom have been pursued by what entity?
By LIV.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, there's 69 guys at this signature event, so the Molinari's don't get to stick their face in the microphones all that much. So you have 10 guys, 15 guys that wanted to comment. And Golf Digest, of those 10 guys, obviously is printing the 3 guys who obviously are the most outspoken about the ridiculousness of the system. And as you said, just happens to be they've been courted pretty heavily by LIV and would be great additions to LIV Golf.
Yeah, and here they are out saying, very nice and supportive things about LIV players. Fitzpatrick particularly jumps out. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's just, quote, "I don't think the world rankings are a true representation of the golf game at the minute," said Fitzpatrick, who is currently 9th in the world. I don't really look at them or pay attention to them anymore. I don't think they're right. Are you kidding me? Matt Fitzpatrick, who has not been a friend to LIV, at least I can recall at all, and you have a photographic memory, Darkstar. Maybe you could recall, but I don't think so. And he couldn't say anything really more friendly than what he just said about that. That's almost like saying, I love those LIV guys. Boy, they're good.
Yeah.
And they're good, and the OWGR is bad. OWGR bad, LIV good. Boy, now there's not something you're going to see every day. Zalatoris said much the same thing with fewer words. And Schauffele, of course, we know he's been back and forth with LIV many times. And he said essentially the same thing. Those three guys. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that that this is preemptive to those three guys getting signed to LIV, although sure, that could happen. But not Fitzpatrick. He doesn't have a major problem. Matt could go. He's got exemptions. Xander does not, and Will does not. Although Will's been injured big time, maybe he's seeing the world a little differently now. And maybe maybe they're chatting with John Rahm and Rory. Now, there's another element to this that I'm getting to, that the union of players that needs to happen for the major to be in real trouble. Maybe it is. Maybe it's happening, through the organization of friendships and professional relationships. Maybe we have enough guys that are talking the same language. Koepka, Rahm, those two names come to mind. Mickelson. Yeah. And they are, in the ears of McIlroy somehow, which just strikes me as miraculous. Although Koepka has said he's got a friendship with McIlroy. They were in Rome together. We know how that unfolded. And now you have Fitzpatrick, top 10 European player, exemptions to majors, maybe good friends, likely reasonably good friends with Rory McIlroy. I don't have to go out of my way to think that. If we all go over to LIV, then it's over. As soon as LIV gets too many guys, the majors will be forced to adjust, not because they want to, because they have to. Because the main threat to the majors is a very simple one, Dark. So we've said it many times. Becoming not irrelevant, that's not right, but having their fields so watered down that they look stupid, that they no longer are a major. They can't allow that to happen. They may go kicking and screaming, but they can't allow that to happen. And all of a sudden they have too many guys on LIV to look at it any other way. Or, as we've been saying, really, if there's a European tour where LIV guys are playing with the Euro guys, including McIlroy, then it's also over. And I like that pathway the best. The only missing ingredient is the European tour available for investment? Can that happen with the PGA Tour owning a minority stake in that? I think it can, but we would need to know more about the capital structure of the European Tour. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, a quick point. Some other breaking news today. Was the talk of how the Arnold Palmer, as a signature event, it's like a mausoleum. It's dead because what the PGA Tour is just messing things up so much. On Monday and Tuesday, there was nobody there. You had a lot of guys. You have a few guys at Seminole, some of the big star playing at Seminole, but it's open all day. So from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., you have those few stars. Well, they're not all on the grounds at the same time. So Scheffler was there from 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. and he left. And, then Fitzpatrick shows up at noon, and Zalatoris maybe likes to play in the afternoon. They don't even know how to run their quality events, let alone run a regular tour event and keep people happy. Again, this is my point, is Greg makes this release to take it out. His players are in Hong Kong, so they're not going to be commenting a lot from Hong Kong, right? So it's a good time for them to just let the PGA Tour players sort of run with the ball. And obviously golf is dying for any kind of publicity, so they're going to print this stuff. It's going to make LIV look better. And then you put it in the backdrop of the Arnold Palmer. And the other thing that I've said for the last 2 years, they've turned golf into a winter sport. Orlando is still kind of in northern Florida, and it is early March. It's winter still. I mean, obviously, last week's Hit and Giggle event, Sunday was rained out. Why the PGA Tour plays golf as a winter sport when it's outdoors, I don't know. Confusing to me. Always been. Will be forever, I guess, until they figure things out. So the PGA Tour is tripping over its own feet, and LIV is, in my opinion, just sitting back watching them screw up. And as you said, on the other side of the pond, things are looking better and better.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, those are all interesting points. We'll see. I just can't quite get to the place where everything that LIV has done has been strategic from the beginning, and necessarily so. And I would imagine that Mr. Norman would consider himself a corporate strategist as a corporate leader, as a CEO. So he probably doesn't look at the world any other way, along with the PIF people who have a very decided plan of everything that they're doing, the Vision 2030 plan on down. And this is just a small part of that, but everything is planned. So this is planned, and then the only question in my mind is, what is this preempting? And audience, please comment. We don't have it surrounded, but I think it's a European move, and that may include Fitzpatrick. That may include him.
And part of Plan B is potentially a war of attrition. I mean, the PIF isn't going to run out of money anytime soon, and the private equity guys are going to get angry. It's kind of like I said, let me get this straight. You're going to invade Russia in the winter? Okay, you go ahead and do that. We're going to kick back and have some fun in the summer while we play golf in good weather.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't get these moves that are illogical to me are just crazy. So now you are literally, as LIV, with this announcement, getting more PGA Tour top players on your side. I'm just going to say that flat out.
Yeah, it's very loud in that they have, name brand PGA Tour players pooping all over the OWGR and also positively elevating LIV. They could just poop on the OWGR, but they are including LIV as, a lot of good players there. We all need to come together and play as one big tour. Well, as we've said many times, and we'll say it here, and maybe we can get out on this, at least for the news of the day, and we'll be back when there's more to say about it. If there's enough player momentum, then the majors are in trouble. And we've said the majors, there's so much more risk to the majors than the average fan thinks. It just once they lose enough players, they don't look right anymore. It's tenuous. And we said, yesterday? That here's another little wrinkle. We'll go out on this. The players show up at the majors for free. For free. You know how much the payroll looks like for a Super Bowl? They show up at the U.S. Open and for free. It's free. It costs us nothing.
They got to pay $50 to register.
Yeah, right. Every Super Bowl player in the NFL in America has to pay $1,000 or they don't get to play. Yeah, it's crazy the way that this thing runs and the way that that everybody in golf world just that's just the way it is. Well, it doesn't look like that's going to stay the way it is, and the players at some point are waking up, and they are waking up, and it'll be interesting. We'll be looking at Phil among other people to maybe throw a comment in the next 24 to 48 hours and see if there's more to it. But I'll go back. I think it's preemptive. I'm waiting for what the next shoe could be, but I'm looking at Europe very carefully, and I'm scrutinizing Fitzpatrick's comments and with exemptions. And Rory. I mean, boy, it's looking like that's Plan B to me.
Yeah. Well, and my last comment is, usually the Masters does things above board and does not make too many mistakes. I think in combination with the other majors and trying to keep this monopoly thing going, inviting Joaquin Niemann was a little bit of a divisive move, continuing the division, because you're going to invite Niemann and you're not going to invite Oosthuizen and you're not going to invite Taylor Gooch. Because if I'm a golf fan, I'm like, well, Oosthuizen has just finished first, and second in tournaments around the world, real tournaments. Gooch wins LIV last year. I'm like, so you're going to invite Niemann, who's playing great now. But what about the accomplishments in the last 6 months or a year by the other two guys there that you're skipping over? And that's just two names to mention. So I think, as I said, LIV is just kicking back and loving this. Greg Norman's like, this is the greatest thing ever. They're self-destructing in front of my eyes. I don't even have to do anything.
Yeah. Well, and yet they are doing something. They're canceling the OWGR and announcing to the world, therefore, that they are busy with Plan B, whatever that is. Well, we'll be back when that takes place, and hopefully with more than just a placeholder show as far as the images go. But wanted to get this together quickly, and with that, B-Team is out.
Dr. Darkstar is out.
If you'd like more Thinking Man shows and topics, then subscribe to our audio podcast. That is where you will get at least 3 new shows every week and topics that will never get to YouTube. And there are a lot of those that we like to talk about that will never get to YouTube. Use the link in the video description below. And thank you again for being a fan.